Howdy, everybody. Welcome back. Happy Skews Day to you. It's May 23rd, 2023. I'm Trey Crowder. That's Mark Agee. How's it going, Mark?
What's up, Dre? We got a good show. Fun, I guess, and yeah, laughing through the darkness.
Sure.
Will the
We
economy
are. That's our
exist
slogan. That's our
in
mission
10,
statement here.
15
Laughing
days? I
through
don't
the.
know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Since we're
Yeah.
going
It feels like our economy is always on, not always, but very often is on the verge of absolute collapse. But I'm not, don't interpret that as me saying like, so everything's going to continue being fine. I'm not saying that because I remember because of like swine flu and bird flu and things like that, when COVID
Mhm,
first became a thing, I was like, all right, whatever. I'm sure it'll be okay.
mhm.
And that was super wrong. So one of these days, it could be the COVID of the economy could eventually show up. It's all going to explode at some point. So could
Yeah.
be in a couple weeks. I don't know. We'll find out, I guess.
Because we're when we talk the economy, I thought I should mention. Did you see that in artificially intelligence generated photo of the Pentagon and White House being bombed went viral yesterday, and it caused a dip in the stock market?
No.
It's somebody put it on a QAnon Facebook page, and then a bunch of blue check mark Twitter people started retweeting it to it went viral. And I'm not sure why the stock market reacted to that. That like the Pentagon and White House got attacked, and you're hearing about it from shit dick patriot 12579 on Twitter.
Yeah. I was about to
Um,
say, yeah, you said that, a bunch of blue check marks started retweeting it. And it's like, well, that means effectively nothing
right.
now. In fact, that's actually not true. It does mean something, but not at all the thing it used to mean. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It almost means the opposite of that thing
Mhm.
now,
Yeah, it's a reality inversion
ironically.
field. I don't
Yeah.
understand why the stock market would dip because it's like I guess a bunch of day traders or who aren't stupid enough to believe it thought that the rest of us would be stupid enough to believe it, so they sold stock in anticipation of the market dipping, so they made it dip. It's stock market's stupid.
Hmm.
I don't understand it.
Me neither.
Um, couple things before you get the show. I saw this obituary yesterday. A guy named Mark Gleason died in Kansas. He's a guy who was a big pro-life advocate in Kansas. His group was the one that harassed George Tiller, who was the only OBGYN in Kansas who was doing abortions for a long time. They shot him multiple times. They bombed his clinic. Eventually, he got murdered in his church.
Yeah,
Um,
see, I don't think you, and I know you didn't like mean it like this, but I don't think you should still be called like a pro-life activist
right,
or whatever when you've done all the shit you just said. Fucking
right.
you're bombing shit and
Anti-choice.
shooting people and all that. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
anti-choice is the way to put it.
you're
But
a terrorist at
the
that
fun
point.
part of it, yeah, the fun part of the story, fun. It's about a death. Maybe fun's not right. You know what? It's funny to me. He didn't die of natural causes. He died when his Cessna crashed. His plane crashed, and the last time he was in the news was for donating a bunch of money to a recall effort for the Kansas pro-choice ballot initiative, and he said that the $120,000 he donated meant he would make it harder for him to renovate his Cessna, which he'd been working on for 15 years. So he essentially put off fixing his plane,
Yeah,
tried to immiserate a bunch of women in Kansas, and
yeah,
then his plane crashed,
crashed.
and he died. He died to make other people more miserable. So
Yeah.
condolences to that man's family, but I'm glad he's not fucking up other people's lives anymore. Um,
Oh yeah, I mean he was, kind of sort of asking for it, so hard to feel too sad about it. Uh
yeah.
I wouldn't give a fuck either way, but yeah, no, you're right. That part does make it kinda hit, He literally said out loud, and rather than making my plane fly good, I prefer to spend all this money on
Yep.
making sure abortion stays illegal, and then he, flies his I was gonna say flies his plane into a mountain, but it's Kansas, they don't have mountains. The ground will work just fine, you don't even need a mountain, if you're high enough. So,
Right.
yeah,
I,
sometimes
I
things work
remember
out.
I remember seeing a statistic once that was like, when a reason not to be afraid of flying is that the overall majority of plane crashes happen on takeoff and landing. I'm like, well, that's where there's shit to run into.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah,
Also, like, I don't understand what that's even supposed to mean. Like, those 2 parts are super important parts of the whole process. I guess they're just like, don't be afraid while you're actively in the air, only when you're going up and coming down. It's like, yeah, I think that's probably when a lot of people are already pretty afraid. Um,
Nervous during turbulence sometimes, so I guess I can understand. It's like you can put your mind at ease for the 99% of the time you're in a plane, right?
I have heard that like
Yeah,
you'll see footage of even like crazy, insane turbulence where people get like the drink cart gets thrown up in the air and shit like that. And people will say like, oh, the plane is built to withstand whatever 20 times that or whatever. Like turbulence is almost never actually a problem. So I guess that is nice to know.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. My wife was on a flight to Austin a couple months ago, and she was it was really really bad turbulence. Like she said she'd never experienced, and she was like texting me "I love you" goodbye messages. I was like, Jesus Christ.
Jesus.
The
Hey,
so
Wi-Fi though coming in handy. That's cool.
yeah,
Just a few
I
short years ago, wouldn't even been able to do that. So that's nice.
I I kind of feel like if the plane was going down, they'd turn off the Wi-Fi,
Yeah.
but I don't know. So your last tweet wouldn't be like "fuck United" or something. uh, one other thing before we get to the show, WGA strikes in its fourth week. A little bit of an update. David Zaslav, the CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery, for some reason was invited to give a commencement speech and get an honorary doctorate at Boston University. And here's how that went.
You're going to have to figure out how to get along with everyone. And that includes difficult people. Some people.
All right, you can cut it, Matt.
You can't tell they are chanting "Pay your riders." Clap, 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 clap.
Yeah, there were 7,000 students there, plus all their families, and they were chanting, "We don't want you here. Pay your writers. Shut up, Zaslav." In case you missed what he was actually trying to say there, he's trying to say the best way to get rich is to work with difficult people, which is basically a thinly veiled dig at the writers.
Right.
BU has a top 25 film program. Uh, just completely tin-eared from everybody who invited him, and the fact that he accepted the invitation or didn't change his mind after this was going on. And it's like Hollywood, like a bunch of industries, is so full of nepotism that I imagine a bunch of people in the crowd have families who are in show business. Um, the speech itself, it was about finding financial success as a lawyer, but not feeling fulfilled because he didn't love what he was doing. Because apparently, what he loves instead is making shows like My 600-Pound Sisters or whatever.
Mhm.
Uh, and he said, I was making good money. I was feeling really great. And then they started another round of chants and boos. Didn't commencement speeches used to be inspiring?
Well, I have to say, my commencement speaker at Tennessee Tech University, Go Golden Eagles, and it's funny because now this guy looks, you know, totally fine, but it was Senator Lamar Alexander, right? Republican
Mhm.
senator from Tennessee. And like the way I remember it was he spent most of his just kind of talking shit about electric cars or something, like he wasn't outright calling climate change bullshit, but it was like in that sort of vein. Basically, it had nothing to do with
Yeah.
college, the future, inspiration, hope, none of that. It was just like basically a conservative talking point stump speech or something is what I got for a commencement address. And again, Lamar Alexander is like, now as a Tennessean, I'm like, God, I really miss Lamar Alexander. I'd love to have
Bleak.
Lamar Alexander and Bob Corker back, or give me Fred Thompson, whatever, like compared to the shit we got now. But yeah, mine wasn't great. What were you inspired by yours? Was yours good?
I don't even remember. I think we had like our lieutenant governor or something. And by the way, our mascot was also the Eagles, Mary Washington Eagles, baby. So, but I mean, like some people saying that like their commencement speaker was like Carl Sagan, who talked about the universe. And like it should be like
Right.
I guess he's doing his business school version of that, but it should be about like finding hope and purpose in life and learning how to use your skills and stuff you learned in college to make the world better. And he's like, you got to work with assholes to make your dough, baby. And it's like, okay, fuck you.
Mhm.
The so it wasn't just the kids chanting, and the thing that they get picketed by the writers guild or sympathetic unions. There's a plane that flew overhead with a "Pay Your Writers" banner behind it. David Zaslav, "Pay Your Writers," see it on screen there. And Scabby the Rat made an appearance outside of a college graduation ceremony. I think we talked about it. Do you remember how much Trump hated Scabby the Rat?
No.
Trump's Labor Department made it its mission in life to try to make this inflatable rat illegal. They said
Yeah.
it was coercive, and and the courts eventually had to be like, we can't ban inflatable cartoon animals, dog. It's like
Right.
for basic reasons of free speech. So yeah, things are going normally, and heading into month 2 of a strike, and I gotta go picket some more. Yeah.
So, on that note, talking about strikes, I was supposed to tell you this weekend, me, Corey, and Drew had shows in Knoxville and then Asheville. In the Asheville shows, after they were over, I met 2 union guys, Thomas and Blake, shout out to those 2, who were like super down for the cause, union dudes, who told me to tell you, don't you ever fucking apologize for going in on Joe Biden for not being pro-union enough, because he didn't do as much as he should have done, and he had to be made to do it in the first place, and it could have been better, and they wanted you to know that you were right all along, and you don't have anything to apologize for. Basically, they told me to impart that message. Sorry to those guys if I butchered your message, but I know it was in the ballpark of that. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah.
Our buddy with the Iowa Teamsters, who we mentioned, talked about before, he hit me up or we talked about the WJ strike too, and told me I was also being too apologetic by talking about how we're not a sympathetic union and all that shit. So all these people are calling me a huge pussy for not, going all the way in the revolution. I like it. I love it.
Yeah. All right. Well, with us, as always, is producer Matt. This is Weekly Skews. Before we continue, I do want to remind you, of course, of a couple of things. Number one, if you'd like to see me perform live, and you should, go to TreyCrowder.com. Got a bunch of dates coming up. A bunch of dates have been added into the fall going forward. A lot of fun stuff. Those are pretty much all solo shows there. I mean, I'll have local openers. But yeah, that's my solo tour. It's a lot of fun. Come and see me, TreyCrowder.com. Also, if you enjoy this program and would like to show your support, you can do so by signing up on Patreon. $5 a month gets you access to full-length bonus episodes. We cover things we don't get to in the main show, things that come up between now and next Tuesday, things we just want to talk about. We answer questions from you guys, you name it, bunch of fun stuff. So you can go to weeklyskews.com/more or go on Patreon and look me up. Either way works. Sign up on there, get some more skews in your life. Now, as for the show tonight, our subject is, well, I'm not entirely sure exactly what the hell it is. It's called the debt ceiling, right? And I feel this way every time the debt ceiling comes up. So America's got bills to pay, much like regular humans do. But if America don't pay hers, they don't just shut the lights off, I guess. Everything sets on fire. I don't know. Mark's going to walk us all through it a little later, but it sounds pretty bad. Before that, though, let's begin, as usual, with the Daily Dumbass. Matt, graphic, please. Tonight's DD, Howard Dean, for never being able to live down everyone else's weird screw-ups. This is Tim Scott in South Carolina.
Hello, North Charleston!
All right. So after he did this, I don't feel bad for Howard Dean because he didn't turn out great later. I thought he was an exciting candidate when he first came out, but they did a bunch of dumb shit. Anyway, but he was trending worldwide on Twitter because this happened.
Right.
And I was like,
anytime anybody ever does anything like any goofy shit on the campaign trail or whatever, he's gonna come back up like that. That's so wild because I'm not gonna lie, I can't speak eloquently on the like career or resume of Howard Dean, right? I'm like most people. But I'm sure he accomplished a lot of shit. He did a lot of stuff in his life, and I'm assuming, and the thing he's going to be remembered for forever is, like that's his legacy. That's wild, dude. That's going to be a wild thing to live with.
And he was celebrating having just won the Iowa caucuses, and he couldn't hear himself talk. So his screw up wasn't nearly as fucking weird as this. Anyway, he was saying hello, New Charleston, is what he was trying to say, is where he was at in South Carolina. In his kickoff campaign speech, he's announced he's running for president. I forgot if we contextualize that. His mic cut out halfway through, like the beginning of his speech. He talked about how he's in government despite the fact that he flunked civics in high school. And then he said that every time he goes against Joe Biden, leftists call him the N-word.
Yeah.
And some reporters trying to figure out what he's talking about. They couldn't find anything online. Maybe he gets calls to his campaign office, but I'll just say I don't fucking believe him. I did a Twitter search and I saw like black people making fun of him using it, but like they were using it like, pronoun. And
Mhm.
but everyone's response to this is so weird. Both Fox and Newsmax did segments. They talked about how people are going to get into his personal life and it's going to be weird. And I was like, what's going on in Tim Scott's personal life? Like they was talking like, it's kind of like they were insinuating he's gay and this is 1958 or something, which I don't care if he's gay, except that he votes to immiserate more gay people.
Right, sure, but he's like 40, mid 40s, right? And he's not and never has been married. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
take that down for a minute, Matt, because we'll get to that in a second. Sorry.
So he that any adult Southern man, right, who especially conservative or whatever, who gets to be 40 something and has never been married, confirmed bachelor, like people are gonna start insinuating that he might be gay or whatever. I have no idea what's going on.
He's 57, and
shit, I thought it was.
Yeah,
I didn't think he was that old. Okay.
But the thing is, like, he entered public life as a person who's talked about abstinence until marriage, and proudly proclaimed that he was a 30-year-old virgin. So the first thing one reporter did, he swore he was going to save himself for marriage, and again, he's 57 and still not married. So a writer about yesterday by the name of Ben Terrace asked him about the stat of his virginity, which may be a dickhead question, but politics ain't beanbag, right? And Tim Scott's answer was, I'm not talking about my sex life with Brian Terrace. Then he stood up and said, I have to go potty. Again, he's 57. Why are all these people so weird? But if you're wondering, he has answered this question before. He was asked this a few years ago. Evangelical Christian who entered public life as a 30-year-old virgin admits he's no longer after 16 years in public life. So this was last year, I guess. I know, 11 years ago, I guess, when he was 46. So congratulations to Tim Scott on coming at least once.
Yeah, it's wild. So, like, he made his name by just being, like, famous for being a 30-year-old virgin. Like, that was his whole thing. It was like, I'm 30 and I ain't never got none because of the Lord. And that worked in South Carolina, apparently.
These guys are all so weird about sex, man.
I know. I do think it's a valid question when if that really was his whole thing, no sex before marriage, and he never got married. And they're supposed to be principled or whatever. I think it's a fair question. Yeah,
right. So somebody tried to, like, I'm not super familiar with Tim Scott's record, but just to walk through it a little bit, I was reading up on it today. He's super against abortion rights. He said Monday, if he were president of the United States, if I were president of the United States, I would literally sign the most conservative pro-life legislation they could get through Congress. But he also doesn't seem to know how long a pregnancy lasts. He said that Democrats are trying to grant abortions up to 52 weeks, which is a year, and human pregnancy runs about 40 weeks. So I'm here to say that no matter whether or not Tim Scott has had sex, he's still spiritually a virgin.
Right.
Yeah. So just a complete fucking weirdo. In other primary news, Ron DeSantis is set to announce he's running for president tomorrow. He's doing it on a Twitter Spaces with Elon Musk.
Yeah, that's audio only, right?
Right. It's an audio only interview with Elon Musk on Twitter's most unused feature.
Right.
Just complete clown shit. And it was pointed out by a spokesman for MAGA Incorporated named Carolyn Levitt. Let me read this because it's pretty, when the Onion meme, when the worst person you know makes a great point.
Yeah. Right.
This is from her. This is one of the most out-of-touch campaign launches in modern history. The only thing less relatable than a niche campaign launch on Twitter is DeSantis' after party at the Uber Elite Four Seasons Resort in Miami. Every day, more and more Americans are realizing just how out of step Ron DeSantis is with their values and how unelectable he really is. From his votes to cut Social Security and Medicare, in support of a national sales tax that would raise the taxes on 90% of families, to his support of Obama's TPP, which sent jobs to China. Just fucking stepping on rakes here. And all that stuff about DeSantis is absolutely true, even if Trump's spokeswoman is saying it. But choosing Musk is, like, extremely weird. Like, DeSantis' biggest campaign narrative is he has to combat the image that he's, like, a weirdly contemptible weirdo. And so he's choosing to announce his campaign in an interview with a guy who the rest of the world has also decided is a contemptible weirdo. DeSantis' people are the most online psychos on the fucking planet if they think this makes any sort of sense.
I think that, like, I could be totally wrong about this because it's not like I really keep up with them or anything. And also, I know this is just like it's a niche cohort I'm about to bring up, but like the people that worship Elon Musk on Twitter, the people that have all the blue check marks now that we were talking about earlier, I feel like they probably are the more like DeSantis types than Trump. Like they were, for whatever reason, I don't know if they want to have somebody to point to and like pretend that there's competence there or whatever, which Trump makes difficult for them or something like that. I'm just saying in my head, because like, you know, they also probably fuck with Joe Rogan, who I'm pretty sure he said he likes DeSantis, and then him and Musk are boys and all that shit. There's just like overlaps in those Venn diagrams. I feel like I still think it's a really weird way to announce a presidential campaign when you're supposed to be like the next big thing. Like you said, nobody fucks with Twitter Spaces, and
right,
it is all just weird.
I mean, that's one of the ways Trump got elected is like having an army of online psychos is incredibly useful for shaping public narratives. But what you do is like you flirt with them in quiet, but you do your campaign launch in like a primetime interview on Fox or something.
Right.
Or
yeah.
CNN town hall or some shit. But like, this is just very, very weird. But like, I guess he's like saving it's trying to be normal interactions for in person. Here's how that's going. This is from a campaign stop at a diner, I think, New Hampshire.
Crazy. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Okay, don't back down. We won't. Crazy. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, he wipes his nose and wipes on a guy's shirt on live television.
Isn't that the exact same campaign stop where he like laughed maniacally in that dude's face over nothing or whatever? It looks like the same room to me. But
is it? I don't know.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
It's just funny. That. Is that like the same shirt?
Yeah.
And all right. Yeah. So it's just
all these guys wearing blue shirts, though, so I don't know.
Right.
But he had another one that went viral where he was another diner he was trying to shake hands in. It was very, very weird. He walked in, loudly announced how good the food smelled, and then basically alluded to the fact he would deign to eat it to be with the plebes. And then he like shook hands with the guy who goes, hi. He goes, hi, how are you? And he goes, what's your name? And the guy goes, hi, I'm Tim, whatever. And he goes, okay, and walks off. Like he didn't introduce himself, which I know the guy knows he's Ron DeSantis, but you still say, hi, I'm Ron. It's like, geez, this guy was fucking born like a week ago in a test tube or something. I don't understand how to explain his vibe. But yeah, even his merch is a joke. Check out his first campaign hat. It says DeSantis 2024, Make America Florida, except the F is the shape of Florida, but Florida is not shaped like an F. And if it looks like anything, it looks like a gun pointing towards America.
Pointing towards America, yeah, which is appropriate. Florida,
Make America Dead, Florida is what it looks like it's saying.
It is sort of like we're being held at gunpoint by a maniacal Florida.
Right.
So it's sort of appropriate in that way. Yeah, that's funny.
I can't believe he even bothered launching after Trump hit him with this the other day on Truth Social. If you got this, Tiny Ron DeSantis is 5'7". It's over, folks. I'm calling it.
Yeah.
Dead. Body bag.
Just left it at that, dude. What more do you want? Why use many word when few word do trick?
Right.
Or 5 words. Well, 4 words and a couple numbers. And just like that. Took him down. All right, let's see. Our first honorable mention for Daily Dumbass is the people who made Laura Ingraham believe her own bullshit. Try to make sense of this here clip. Well, it's not hard to make sense of, but you'll see what I mean.
Look.
Oh, that's the wrong one, Matt.
Sorry.
That's my bad. We skipped it. That was Mike Pence. You play that. Actually, this is pretty funny. We'll get the Laura Ingraham clip. This is the last primary update on this is Mike Pence. It's my bad. We skipped that one.
Okay, go ahead.
Look, Larry, I like Walt Disney, not woke Disney. All right, but Florida.
Larry Carlos laugh there. These guys,
okay.
I'm out of touch with anything a regular person would care about. Okay, now let's watch Laura Ingraham.
Sorry about that. My bad. Go ahead, Matt. This is the Ingraham clip coming up here in just a second.
All right, before we go, a little update on a story we brought you this week about homeless vets being displaced from hotels so that illegals could move in. Turns out the group behind the claim made it up. We have no clue as to why anyone would do such a thing, but we'll bring you any updates.
No guesses. No, you want to hazard a guess on why someone might make up a story like that after having reported it in prime time on Fox News and made it into a whole thing, and all these Congress people commented on it and all that stuff. You have no idea why someone might be motivated to make something like that up in the first place. It's beyond me too. I tell you what, I will say, at least they acknowledged that had happened. I could tell it's at the very end of the show. It takes 15 seconds. They say it in a throwaway way. Why would you do that? And then it's on to the next thing. But, whatever.
Yeah. So why Lori Ingram, or however you say her name, is simply asking, why would anyone make up a viral news story to divide America, Trey?
Right.
Why would people do that? Laura's just wondering. So in case you're wondering what this story was, the story was all the rage on the right the last week and a half or so. It was basically the story went that some homeless veterans were kicked out of a hotel that a homeless charity had paid for to be replaced by migrants from the border.
Yeah.
Right. You were shocked to know that not a single fucking word I said about that is true. They were not. No one was displaced from a hotel. They were not even fucking veterans. What happened was this nonprofit called the Yerrick Israel Tony Foundation, with this CEO named Sharon Tony Finch. She's the one who came up with this story. The foundation, this is weird, focuses on veterans issues and premature births. That's like the two things they do. I'm like, what the fuck does? Okay. Turns out what she did was she created a group of 15 homeless men from a local shelter to pretend to be veterans and talk to the press about their tale of woe. The homeless guys then came forward to say the whole story was bullshit because she had promised them $200 each and did not fucking pay them.
I don't know what she expected. Dude, also, like, I don't know, rounding up some homeless people and offering them $200 to like make up a sob story about how pitiful their existence is and make it sound worse in reality, by pretending to be veterans when they're not and making shit up in the first place. And then not even paying them the $200 is pretty goddamn sorry. Like, they couldn't raise enough money between that and premature births. They couldn't come up with however much money that is, $3,000 total. It's not that much.
What always pissed me off about this shit is like they don't care about homeless vets either. So like, What the fuck? Like, so they don't care about homeless anybody. They don't care about veterans at all, whether they have homes or not. And this story again, Fox News kept running. Says Fox News has verified the New York Post report that, but nobody verified anything because the story immediately fell apart when a local newspaper called up the hotel manager and she goes, "No, those guys didn't stay here."
Right.
And then they showed the receipt that this local state representative who was allied with this foundation had been showing to people, to like some digital manipulation expert, and this is obviously a counterfeit. So like
who was supposed to have done it anyway? Like, do you know what I mean?
Biden? I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, like big Democrat called a hotel and was like, "Get all those veterans out of there. We got to move a bunch of immigrants in." What was even supposed to have happened? It just seems super easy to shoot holes in it from the very beginning, is what I'm saying. But when you're desperate to believe something in the first place, then
it's cartoonish. Like, imagine living in a reality in this country and think that the government cares about illegal immigrants, undocumented immigrants, or what? Like,
right?
What planet are you on? I don't fucking understand it. So yeah. But basically, one of the reasons this happens, they have like racism blue balls because the Title 42 thing turned out to be nothing.
Yeah, we talked about that on a recent episode. It was a Trump era COVID policy related to immigration, where they could just kick people out without any regard to asylum status or something like that. And it was set to expire, and everybody said, "Hey, it's going to be illegal Christmas as soon as this expires. There's going to be a war an invasion." That's what they were saying. It's going to be an invasion as soon as this expires. And it expired. And what happened, Mark, after it expired?
Let me quote from this article. We have seen this is from a Homeland Security official. And by the way, just because Biden's in the government, in charge of the federal government, does not mean that Customs and Border Patrol and Homeland Security are run by leftists. Quoting from a top Homeland Security official here, quote, "We have seen a substantial decrease in unlawful crossings of the border and irregular migration, averaging less than half as many encounters since Title 42 expired." I don't know why that is. I don't know. But it is. And they were acting like it was going to be World War Z, fucking with just zombies climbing over the wall. But since nothing is based in reality anymore, Marjorie Taylor Greene, a few days ago, introduced articles of impeachment against Biden specifically because of a huge migrant surge because of the collapse of Title 42. It didn't happen. They're just pretending that it happened. and also that veterans are being kicked out of hotels that were provided by nonprofits in favor of illegal immigrants. And so it's just everything's so fucking stupid.
Indeed it is. Speaking of which, all right, speaking of things being fucking stupid, I'm one of those things, as is the country we live in. So why don't you explain to me and the rest of us, Mark, what the hell
All
is
right.
going on with the debt ceiling here? Let me take a quick crack at it. The debt ceiling is some like nebulous apparatus financially that dictates the amount of money that the U.S. government has on hand to pay its bills, and it has to be raised periodically because
Yeah. It's
if it's
arbitrary.
not raised, then the Treasury can't go beyond that amount to pay the bills for things that we've already like bought or things that we're already on the hook for, which means we will default on those things, which is bad for a whole host of reasons.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's just an arbitrary number that says the government can't borrow any more money past a certain number, and they up it every few years. They always up it. It's fine. And the funny part about it is like its origin came from 1917 during World War One. It was something called the Second Liberty Bond Act of 1917. It was basically designed to allow Treasury to issue bonds and take on other debt without specific congressional approval. Because before that, Congress had to authorize basically every dollar of spending individually, and they were just like tired of that. So the point of the debt ceiling was to make it easier for the federal the executive branch to spend money. But 106 years later, it is now the opposite.
Right.
The law is doing the exact opposite of what's intended to do. It's just such an anachronism, and it's completely fucking idiotic. And yeah, this is about spending. This is about paying debt on spending that Congress already authorized. And Matt, so you can skip that first video. Let's play this clip of Kevin McCarthy so you can hear him explaining that. Because if you don't believe me, you can take it straight from the Republican House Speaker.
The debt ceiling, that's actually paying for, when you raise the debt ceiling, that's actually paying for stuff that has already been spent.
Right. So also, like, they always act like, because most people are money dumb, including us. All right.
Yeah. Right.
So they talk about it in terms of like a household budget. Like,
right.
Well, you pay your debt, the government needs to pay its debt. That's absolutely not fucking true. It's not how anything works. No other country pays off their debts. I read the other day that the UK and France still are carrying war debts from wars in the 1700s and 1800s. It's fine. It's perfectly normal. And one of the reasons it doesn't work like a household debt is like when you get a mortgage, you get like a 30-year mortgage. The bank wants to make sure you pay it back in an orderly fashion because you are going to die. You are going to get old and make less money and have less money when you retire. The federal government's the opposite. The federal government, assuming we don't overthrow it, will live eternally, and it makes more and more money every year because the economy grows and grows and grows, and the tax base grows and grows and grows. So it's fine. It just is. So whenever they talk like it's like a mom and pop around the kitchen table, they're lying. They're full of shit.
Okay, but wait. You're not saying it's fine you just said it's fine if they don't pay. It's fine if the government doesn't pay its debts or whatever.
No,
like,
it's fine if it doesn't pay it off. Pay
it off, right? Well, of course they're never going to fucking pay it off. Yeah, they do. Right.
Kevin McCarthy.
It's like people are like, "Oh, this is too high. We can't just keep raising it because it's already too high." And then people who have bills every month or understand that shit are like, "Yeah, we can't. This is unsustainable. We can't just keep this going." But like, we can just keep doing that, though.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Right.
And they know that because George W. Bush spent $7 trillion in the war in Iraq while cutting people's taxes. All right. So, like, they know they're full of shit. We'll get to the numbers during the Trump administration in a little bit. But, like, the idea that Kevin McCarthy stood in front of the White House today and said that a child born today was handed a bill for $946,000 the minute they were born. They're not even a minute old. And that's just a transparent lie. That kid's never going to fucking pay back $946,000. The debt doesn't have to be paid off. The debt has to be serviced by paying interest on bonds, which is what raising the debt ceiling does. So, and people keep calling this negotiation. This is not a fucking negotiation. This is a hostage taking. The Republicans are threatening to shoot the global economy in the head if Joe Biden doesn't basically unravel the New Deal and every legislative accomplishment of his presidency so far.
Right. It's straight up extortion is what it is.
If you don't believe me, let me quote Matt Gaetz. All right. Matt Gaetz, who rejects any debt limit compromise with the White House, quote, I think my conservative colleagues, for the most part, support the Limit, Save, Grow Act, which is the one they're trying to pass, and they don't feel like we should negotiate with our hostage. All right.
Mm-hmm.
These are the people Joe Biden spent last year refusing to negotiate with on the debt limit rightfully, and has now spent the last couple of weeks trying to negotiate with. They're loudly announcing they're not going to compromise at all.
This is
Right?
also like anytime, like when Biden, when he's running, you know, and I like Biden generally, but when he was running and talked about how like working with them and bringing people back together and like alluding to like, you know, reaching across the aisle and working with these people and that sort of thing. It's like, it's just all bullshit because they don't operate in good faith. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
you say with like the Democrat, like, and I'm not saying the Democrats should do the same thing. No one should use this to hold the whole fucking economy hostage. It's bullshit either way. But like, it's just not on level playing field because the Democrats don't do shit like this for the most part. And the Republicans have no issue, no qualms whatsoever with doing it, you know, with playing dirty and being cheap and petty and all that shit. And I don't know how many times they need to prove that before, you know, big Democrat sees them for what they are or whatever.
Yeah. And so, like, they basically slow walk to this, assuming Republicans are just pretending to be lunatics.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then
Why? Why would
now
you think that they're not actually good? That they're that is like, oh, they'll no. In the end, they'll show reason. It's like, since when, man? Like, what would make you think that?
yeah. Biden, in his defense, has started coming down harder on them, trying to ratchet up public pressure. But like, the fight's almost over. He should have been doing this 6 months ago. But like, there was a pretty banging quote from him in Japan yesterday. I'm not going to agree to a deal that protects wealthy tax cheats and crypto traders while putting food assistance at risk for nearly 1 million Americans. That's a banging sound quote. He also said this. If you have this video ready, Matt, here's him talking. He said he was at a G7 forum in Japan. Was asked about this debt limit.
This is 100% correct in my opinion. Right. This right here.
I think there are some MAGA Republicans in the House who know the damage that it would do to the economy. And because I am president and presidents are responsible for everything, Biden would take the blame. And that's the one way to make sure Biden's not reelected.
Right.
Yeah.
So like, but like, why did he just because like when Obama was elected president, when he took office in 2009, Mitch McConnell announced it was the Senate Republican majority's main priority. Senate Republicans, sorry, they were the minority at the time. Their main priority to make Obama a one-term president, which is a statement of breathtaking cynicism. You're not saying you're going to pass bills to help people, to save the country, to build the military, to feed people, to give people health care. You're saying your number one goal is to make sure the next 4 years are fucking miserable for everybody so Obama loses. Joe Biden was in the White House then as vice president.
Right.
And I don't know why he didn't see this coming. I'm glad he sees it now, but it might be too late to save his signature legislative accomplishments or, you know, Medicaid.
It just really pisses me off because you know that he's right, like that's exactly how it will play out. You know what I mean? Like if he like stuck to his guns and didn't reach an agreement and we did default and the debt ceiling wasn't raised and we defaulted and all this bad shit happened, right? Which you're going to enumerate at some point what that would actually look like. But if that did happen, it would 150% be entirely their fault, right? But they're not going to treat it that way. They're going to treat it like they're going to point at all the bad shit and be like, they're going to shoot the economy in the head, then point at the corpse of the economy and go, why would Joe Biden do this? And people are going to be like, why would Joe Biden do this? And I'm preemptively so pissed off about that.
Yeah.
It makes me so mad, dude, because that's exactly what will fucking happen.
The media's coverage of it's very both sides, how neither side can compromise or come to an agreement. But like that's one of the reasons I don't like our structure of government. We prefer a parliamentary one. A parliamentary system, the majority party rules, right? In our system, you have a president of one party and often a congressional majority from another. Right now, the Republicans control 51% of one chamber of the legislature, and they can destroy the economy, and with an understanding that people generally blame the president for the way things are going, even though he can't control his own legislative program. It's like it doesn't work. It's fundamentally mismatched. And so you're gonna have Republicans around screaming that Joe Biden ruined the economy, while people who aren't watching the news because they're running around looking for work because they just got unemployed, and it's going to feel bad. So people are going to vote for change. Right. So if you're wondering what the Republicans actually want here, it's not super clear. It's not super clear they agree on what they want, which means there's probably almost no bill that Kevin McCarthy can get a majority for with Republican votes. So basically, they want spending cuts in exchange for raising the debt limit. They want to roll back to spending to 2022 levels, which would undo the IRA,
Inflation
Biden's signature
Reduction
legislative.
Act.
Yeah, Biden's signature accomplishment as president. It also would cap future spending for the next decade. So even if we elected overwhelming Democratic majorities, they would have to like do some rejiggering to like be able to fulfill their mandate. They say our current debt's unsustainable. I've already covered that. It's not. Everything's fine. They also want to like add stiffer work requirements on recipients of government cash aid, like food stamps and Medicaid. Medicaid for people who are too sick to work. So they want work requirements for people who are too sick to work.
We never pass up a good opportunity to fuck poor people over. You know what I mean? Like if you're going to be going to the hill anyway, you might as well fuck some poor people over while you're there.
McCarthy's ruled out any to reduce the debt, national debt. McCarthy's ruled out new tax revenues, any military spending cuts, or any Social Security and Medicare cuts, which of course I agree with. You shouldn't cut those. The other two I would be absolutely be in favor of. Their plan would also dial back funding for the IRS, so it wouldn't even be able to capture the tax money the government's supposed to get. So it would actually probably expand the debt. But whatever. If you're wondering what else they want, where this cuts would come from, basically all that leaves is 15% of the federal budget to be chopped. So we're looking at cutting back on air, rail, road, and maritime transport programs, the DOT, right after a huge,
train derailment.
Train derailment. All programs for early childhood, elementary and secondary education, cut health and benefit programs for veterans. Remember, they're super concerned about homeless veterans. Cut back on scientific research and space programs, no science. Diplomatic and consular programs, law enforcement programs, the DOJ and DHS. They want to cut back on border funding while they're crying about immigration. They want to cut housing assistance for low-income tenants. They want to cut management of the nation's natural resources and environment, including the National Park Service. So all the stuff the government does that's good, they want to cut, but not the bad stuff.
Yeah, that checks out.
Yeah. But anyway, this is such a small percentage of the federal budget they want to take an axe to. Like they're supposed to. I think this is a really serious situation, but this doesn't do anything. If you think it's a serious, the rhetoric doesn't match with your goals. If you think it's a serious situation, you got to cut military spending and Social Security. If you don't think if you do think it's like a serious situation, you can't like balance the federal budget by going after the National Park Service. It doesn't make any fucking sense. It's the whole thing's a charade. It's like charade, like a French person. Charade, sorry.
You should apologize for that. But it's okay.
Another farcical part of this is that under Donald Trump, we raised the debt ceiling 3 times. There was no drama over it.
That's what I'm saying.
And 40% of the national debt was actually accumulated under Trump. 7 trillion of that 31 trillion came from fucking Trump. We could shore up a lot of this, like make the budget more balanced by closing tax loopholes. Dems have proposed that, but they won't talk about raising taxes on the wealthy. So that's a non-starter. But anyway, let's talk about the stakes of this for a minute so you understand why I'm nervous.
I was about to ask you to go there. So go ahead.
If the U.S. defaults on its debt, all right, it means there's no more money to spend because more money needs to be spent. So if you hit the limit, you can't spend any, basically. The government wouldn't have cash to run basic operations like roads and schools. Government workers might stop getting paid. The government have to decide because they have less money than they have to send out. So they'd basically be pick and choosing who they pay. All right, we'll get to that in a minute because it's sort of like a line veto that might be unconstitutional. Businesses that have contracts with the government won't get paid, and that means a lot of layoffs. Social Security checks could stop going out. It would shock financial markets. It might even cause a panic. After all, a lot of that debt is money owed to banks who own a lot of bonds and T-bills. So maybe faith in banks goes down. Maybe banks collapse. The financial system probably freezes up. That means there's no more borrowing. So businesses stop investing. The markets go haywire. And that's why this very, very, very quickly could look like 2008 or maybe even worse. But the thing is, this is totally self-inflicted and for no fucking reason.
Right.
And other countries do default on their debt fairly regularly, like Greece did it recently, like a decade ago. But U.S. isn't any other country. It's the biggest, wealthiest economy on the planet. Like, if other countries own billions of dollars of our debt, so like we'll collapse other countries' economies.
Right.
This would spread worldwide. We might be looking at Great Depression 2 or some shit. I don't fucking know. Like, I saw some estimates, the market would immediately collapse 45% and unemployment would jump 5% virtually immediately. But no one knows because this has never happened before because we've never been this fucking stupid before.
Right.
But anyway, the long-term cost of this, even if they just default for a day or two, is that our mortgages will be higher forever.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
because
Because if you yeah, I mean, I get the whole country works like anybody like a person's credit score would. If you default on something,
right.
anytime you get, you're going to have an outrageous interest rate in the future if you borrow money again because of defaulting
Mhm.
the first time. So like it would work that way just for the US Treasury or whatever.
Right.
Like
It'll
they
be
default
it'll
and interest rates go up and just stay up for forever. It's like having being a bad driver and having a high car insurance or whatever.
right.
Ugh.
The rate, we have to pay higher rates on TU bills for the rest of the life of this country. So they're going to make the debt more expensive.
Right.
This is the stupidest thing, but caving to the GOP demands
That's what I was about to say. That's what I was about to say. So where does that like leave him? You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
because
The
that all sounds
yeah,
pretty bad, right? But
it
the
is.
demands that the GOP has, I don't want them to just bend over and just take that either.
But
But
Biden
I
put it
don't know.
off for so long, he might have to. But what caving means is, according to these numbers might be juiced because they're from Progressive Caucus in Congress. But they said that the caving the GOP debt limit demands could trigger a recession, which is possible because it cuts a lot of federal spending, rendering 780,000 people jobless, 1.2 million left without nutrition assistance, and up to 21 million Americans stripped of Medicaid. But caving also sets a precedent that you can do this, and it works.
Yeah, right.
So they'll do it
Yep.
again next time. So,
Yep.
like, if you're going to cave, raise the debt. If you're going to make this deal, do it to eliminate the fucking debt ceiling, not raise
Right.
it. Because there's no reason we didn't have
That's
one until
what I
1917.
know. That's what I was going to say. But I mean, I guess I get why they can't just eliminate it right now because they don't have both sides, but they did for a while. I don't know. It seems like something that we should probably take care of in the future at the earliest opportunity to me, because you're
Yeah,
right. It's just this, they've
and
already done it before. They're doing it now. They will do it again, especially if it works.
Corey said something on here once when he was subbing in for you that basically like, I hate the Republicans for what they do, but I'm frustrated with the Democrats for what they won't do. So like,
Yeah.
it's not a completely fair situation because it's asymmetrical. But if I am hanging out with a deranged lunatic who's mad at me and I hand him a loaded weapon and he
Hmm.
shoots me, it's not my fault, but I did fuck up. Do you
Yeah.
understand what I'm saying?
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so like Republicans are the bad actors here, but
Yes.
talk about how Biden left himself open to this. All right, Democrats controlled Congress the last 2 years. They could have
Right.
raised or eliminated the debt ceiling that whole time.
Right.
After they lost the House in last election, Bernie was running around screaming they needed to raise the debt ceiling now because you're going to negotiate with these fucking psychopaths.
Yep.
And everybody's like, nah, don't worry about it.
Nah, it'll be fine. Yeah. Right.
Right. And
Is it just hating doing stuff that much? Like, I know they don't like to do anything, but I mean, my God, it's just like, nah, well, we got Christmas coming up. I'm sure
I
it'll be fine. Like it's just so short-sighted and naive.
I think Joe Biden thought the project of his presidency was trying to lower the temperature in politics and to make it more
Right.
sane again. And so he
That's kind of
thought
what
if
I
he,
was saying earlier. Like he
yeah,
harped on that a lot. And I'm saying, like, dude, what made you actually believe that was going to be possible with
yeah.
these people on the other side? Like,
I think he thought
they're not
if
going to
he,
do that. Like,
you give your kids responsibility to see if they can handle them and to encourage them to be more responsible. I think he thought if he gave them a little bit of power, it would be like, okay, we have to be responsible now. But here we go. And by the way, they did this to
yeah.
Obama in 2011 or whenever, when we had this sequestration crisis where like federal government spending, domestic spending got slashed 10% across the board in every department, and it slowed the economic recovery, probably cost Democrats the House and the Senate. But that also set the precedent that it's sort of negotiable. So this, and again, Biden was around for all that. So I don't know why he was shocked with. But anyway, these are the people he thought he could negotiate with. This is the leader of the MAGA movement, Donald Trump, what he's posting over on Truth Social.
Why they got to do sandstorm like that? But what's the?
You can cut it, Matt. So he's drumming on the heads of the. If you can't,
Yes.
listen to the podcast version. It's Donald Trump, like an artificially animated video of him playing drums to that beat over the heads of the CNN town hall anchor Nancy Pelosi and the hosts of The View and Kathy Griffin. Don't know why,
Right.
But Joe Biden thought he could negotiate with this movement. Also, this story is from the day. Another person Joe Biden thought he could negotiate with. Marjorie Taylor Greene bids $100,000 for Kevin McCarthy's used chapstick at a GOP fundraising auction. Instead of negotiating over the debt ceiling today, trying to figure out that, they held a campaign fundraiser where Marjorie Taylor Greene paid $100,000 for a used chapstick in exchange to get to have, for her and a couple of her donors, to have dinner with Kevin McCarthy. I personally feel like getting $100,000 to go to dinner with Marjorie Taylor Greene is too low of a price to be paid for that. But whatever. Used chapstick. Who wants Kevin McCarthy's used chapstick?
Yeah, so I was going to ask you to make sense. Like, there's something else going on there, right? So in exchange for doing that, she's getting some kind of political favor or something.
What
right?
goes to campaign,
like there's some kind of underhanded thing happening here, right? Obviously.
Yeah, she gets a couple of her donors to go to the dinner with Speaker of the House.
Yeah, right. Okay. And they pay for it. They're the ones paying for it.
I mean, she's rich. Maybe she paid $100,000. I don't know.
But I'm saying not like effectively. Like just a couple of her donors or puppet masters or whatever are basically the ones paying for it, and in exchange they get a private audience with Kevin McCarthy or some shit like that. Right.
Yeah. We won't play this next video, Matt, because we're running a little behind. I'll just play. There's another element of this is the 14th Amendment. And in case you wonder if the Republicans are negotiating good faith on that, either Josh Hawley gave an interview to his hometown paper back in Kansas City. He said if he was president, he would just raise the debt ceiling without Congress using the 14th Amendment. But then he said, but I'm not necessarily going to give him that advice because it's against my interest. All right.
So the 14th Amendment. How would that help here?
So the 14th Amendment was one of the Reconstruction amendments passed by Congress in the 1860s after the Civil War. It basically granted citizenship to Black Americans, gave equal protection under the law. Part of it also because former Confederate states were maybe going to try to reimburse former slave owners, for the people they used to own, and so the amendment forbade that because fuck that. They also said there was also a debt part of it, which is related to that, which said that the U.S. government would not adopt Confederate debts because Confederacy had borrowed a bunch of money from the UK and France. We're like, we're not paying you dumb fucks back. Fuck you, rightfully so. But it said that they would. The Constitution required the executive branch to fulfill all their debts because they were. I couldn't find an explainer for it. I'm guessing they were fearful that former pro-Confederacy politicians would take the presidency and Congress, which did happen many, many times, and they would forgive debts owed by the Union Army to fuck the same way that the Union had fucked the Confederate debt holders.
Yeah, basically, there's a section in the 14th Amendment that says like, the debt,
the validity of the public debt of the United States authorized by law, including debts incurred for payment of pensions and bounties for services and suppression, insurrection, or rebellion, should not be questioned. So they're also worried they wouldn't pay like Union soldier pensions.
Right. But after that, they say any debts related to like the Confederacy shit, on the other hand, we are not responsible for, and we're not. So that's the context in which they said it, but still it's written. So it's written in the Constitution.
Yeah.
That the debt of the U.S. government is sacrosanct, basically.
Right. The basic argument here is that the Constitution says the debt must be paid. Unconstitutional laws cannot be obeyed. So the debt ceiling is null and void because how can you stop the president from paying debts? The Constitution orders him to pay debts.
I mean, it makes sense to me. Obviously, I'm biased, but like, I'm biased and I'm dumb. I'm following all those. I'm connecting all those dots, though.
Yeah.
That's making sense to me.
The way this would work is like the president doesn't go to a court and say he doesn't say I invoke the 14th Amendment like Michael Scott from The Office saying I declare bankruptcy. He just keeps doing what he's doing, which is the Treasury Department issuing more debt and paying interest, using the money to pay interest on old debt, right? But what Biden's afraid of is that because it's unprecedented, he's basically said he's not going to do it because it would get hung up in the courts.
Of course,
the markets would have the same instability.
Yeah,
that would basically be the same.
Also, you can't trust this court in particular, too. Like
I think
because any kind of question of constitutionality or whatever, right? That's going to be a Supreme Court thing. Like this, if he did that, it would end up in front of the Supreme Court, and this Supreme Court's pretty wild.
It might end up in the Supreme Court unless the Supreme Court just agreed with the lower court decision and didn't fuck with it. But there would be a lot of uncertainty. But the thing is, the Supreme Court, they're pro MAGA, but they also serve as capital. Like
they don't want the economy to be fucked up.
Right. Do you think
Right.
Terrence Thomas is going to vote for his good buddy Harlan Crow's net worth to create her by a few $1 billion? I don't.
Right.
So like that might influence their vacations they take together, right? So like the thing about this is Joe Biden's worried about potential litigation over the debt ceiling. He's already in litigation of the debt ceiling, and this is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard in my entire life. So basically, last Friday, the National Association of Government Employees filed for an emergency injunction, basically requiring Joe Biden to invoke the 14th Amendment to keep issuing debt to pay the government's bills. They wanted a speedy ruling. Basically, they're saying that like by picking and choosing who to pay, that's giving the power of line item spending vetoes over congressional bills, and that's unconstitutional as well. So there's two constitutional reasons you can't fucking pass through the debt ceiling. The people being sued, named in the lawsuit, are Janet Yellen and Joe Biden. All right. So the government employees union is already blaming Yellen and Biden for this fucking situation. So if you want to know who's going to take the heat for this, you can look at the lawsuit. So this would be a way out of their fucking problem, because they can say like, well, the courts are ordering us to use the 14th Amendment to keep the economy rolling. All they have to do is not defend themselves from this lawsuit. Nothing makes you defend yourself from a lawsuit. You can just, agree to like not do the thing you're getting sued over. But there was a video conference about this case today because they're asking for a quick decision before June 1st when this is supposed to come to a calamitous end. And the judge, the guy named Judge Stearns, this is in Boston, did not get a direct answer when he asked Justice Department lawyer Alexander Eli whether the department disagrees with the central argument of the suit. He asked him, do you guys want to get sued? And he's like, I'm not authorized to. I can't make a decision on that. The government does not have a position over whether Joe Biden should be president. This is insane. The attorney for the union, a guy named Thomas Gogahan, I can't pronounce his name. It's one of those weird Irish names with extra letters in it, pointed out that the claims of an imminent cataclysm from a possible default originate with the very officials named the defendants in the suit. He's saying, we're quoting from Janet Yellen and Joe Biden here, saying this is going to be a fucking disaster. And they won't agree that the judge needs to be in a hurry about this. And the judge said, if the emergency is dire as you think it is, I think that it's within the power of the president to address it using executive branch authority. Right. Everybody's just saying, Joe Biden, do something.
Do something. Yeah, right.
And it's like, again, the bad actors here are Republicans, but Joe Biden might have the authority to like not deal with them. I think he should at least try it.
I don't know how it would all ultimately play out, but I would love to see that happen though, because dude, they'll be apoplectic. Like if the way that actually looks in action is he just, like you said, he just says, fuck it, we're going to keep paying the bills. I don't give a shit about the debt ceiling because it's unconstitutional. Like they will lose their minds, and that'll be, and I'm saying I'd like to see it.
Every time the White House makes a statement about this, they say how they would almost definitely never use the 14th Amendment. It's their main negotiating wedge, and they keep taking it off the table. Right. Because, again, they're afraid of dragging out in courts to be mildly as bad as default. So they don't want to do that either. What Joe Biden wants to do instead is give away Medicare and make Medicaid patients go on work requirements and fucking defund the national parks in a deal. Probably because no Republicans are going to vote for this. Yep. But McCarthy just has to make a good enough deal to keep his speakership. We're going to end up with a situation where every Democrat in the House, plus like 4 or 5 moderate Republicans, votes for a bill that makes Biden's reelection much, much harder, and Biden signs it.
Yeah.
That's the compromise we're heading towards. And it's frustrating.
That is frustrating. Shep on YouTube says, hit the like button, Skewers. Thank you, Shep. Appreciate that. Yeah, get in there and do it. Do it to it. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And yeah, we'll see how it all plays out. I don't have high hopes, but
maybe Republicans cave. Maybe Joe Biden's gambit works. Maybe they get sane, but by the end of the week and all this works out. Maybe it's all a big bluff. I don't think Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene are capable of bluffing. I don't think they have any guile. I think they say what's on their mind all the time.
Well, we're going to be doing another Patreon episode later this week, and so I imagine this will come up. So if you want to see some further discussion on how this ultimately pans out, you can do so by signing up on Patreon, weeklyskews.com/more. $5 a month, you'll get that bonus episode that we're going to record later this week. And also, when you sign up, a whole archive of existing bonus episodes that we've already done. So, yeah, and you'll support the show in the process. So, give it a shot. And, yes, thank you, Matt. People also go to TreyCrowder.com. Check out my upcoming tour dates. Got a lot of fun ones coming up and adding more all the time. Working on some Michigan dates to be added as we speak. There's a lot more that we're already getting to that haven't been added to the graphic, but will be soon. So I'm going all over the place. Come and see me, TreyCrowder.com. But most importantly, keep coming back here every Skews day, and we will too. And we'll see you next time. See you, love you, bye.